Hi, I'm Carolyn Finnie, and I'm the City Kids Minister at City on a Hill Community Church. I'm just going to do a little devotional for you today, and this is more geared towards parents, but really hopefully this could be helpful to anybody that is a role model for children or preteens or teenagers. And normally my devotionals, I really like to give you strategies and advice and things to work on and really helpful resources and tools because that's what I'm really passionate about. But this first devotional, I really wanted to raise some hard questions because before I give you all this advice and resources and strategies, they might not be as helpful to you if you don't know what areas of weakness you have, especially when it comes to parenting. There are so many layers. It's very difficult, especially right now, being in quarantine and the shelter in place and the at-home learning. It's definitely an adjustment for everybody. And so I think this is a really great time in your quiet time to really start evaluating your parenting and where you want to get better, where are your weaknesses, and just asking God to reveal to you where the work needs to be done. And so that's really what this devotional is going to focus on. And I have 3 points, and the first one is, are you speaking life to your child? The second one is, what example do you set for your children when you talk to other adults? And 3, are your actions lining up with your words? Okay, and like I said, these are really questions that I want you to be asking yourself, and these are things that I need to be asking myself as well as a parent and as a teacher. These are things that I need to also be checking in with myself and making sure that I am keeping myself accountable for how I'm role modeling to these children and to my son. So the first one, how are we speaking to our child? It says in Proverbs 15:4, the soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. And especially at such a young age, we need to make sure that we're using positive reinforcement, that we're speaking love and life to our children, because the way that we talk to them is going to shape their inner critic, their inner talk, how they talk to themselves, and that starts very young, and it can continue to shape as they get older. And so we need to make sure that we are speaking life into them so they start having that positive self-talk as they get older. And, moms, I think, tend, we do a lot of things, whether you're a house mom, you stay at home, or you're a working mom, things can pile up and it feels overwhelming. And so I feel like there are times where you just act out of frustration and you say things at the end of the day, or you say things and then you come back at the end of the day and you're like, I wish I hadn't have said that, or maybe I should have said that differently, or I kind of flew off the handle really fast when it wasn't even their fault, and those things we wish we could take them back. And sometimes for our dads, I know dads like to joke a lot, and with joking, are you making jokes at your child's expense and not even realizing that it might be affecting their self-esteem? And that really comes down to the fact that when we say a joke about another person, and we're like, oh, just kidding, it's like, there's a little bit of truth to it. We've always heard that, and that's true. And so just being aware of how you're treating your child in those moments of frustration, in those moments of joking, is, are you building your child up? Asking yourself these questions, thinking about your daily, interactions with them. How are you talking to them? And it says in Proverbs 17:27, the one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. So there are so many places in the Bible where it talks about the importance of our words. And those are just 2 examples of where we're told that we need to be careful with what we're saying, because our words have the power to tear others down or to build them up. So ask yourself, am I using language that builds my child up? Am I speaking to them in a way that is creating a positive inner speech? Okay, so the second question, what example do you set for your children when you're talking to other adults? So it's not just how you're talking to your child, it's how are you modeling your behavior when you're talking to other people, or even behind their back. Like when you come home, are you talking bad about your boss? You know, the way that you're talking about other people or you're talking to people is setting an example for them. You're showing them how to talk to other people. So if you're at a store and you talk to the manager because you need to return something, and it's, you know, you go about it and you start flying off the handle and you start yelling at the manager and getting really frustrated and blowing out of proportion, and your child's standing right there. Well, what are you teaching them in a situation where you're frustrated? You're teaching them to fly off the handle and yell at people, you know, and that's not the kind of behavior you want to teach them. But if you're not aware of how you're acting and how you're treating other people, you're not going to be intentional with your words like that. You know, we have to keep ourselves in check because little eyes are watching us, regardless if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, you know, or if you're just an aunt or an uncle and you babysit. You know, your actions matter, your words matter, and how you treat others matter, because they're learning how to treat others by the way you treat people. So and that's a really hard question to ask yourself, because I think we all can think of times where we're not treating others the way we need to treat them, but it's an important question because it is so influential to our children of how we treat others and the words we use to other people. And so not just how we're talking to our children, but how we are teaching them to talk to others. So be mindful of how you talk to your spouse. Are you tearing your spouse down in front of your children? Like, even by accident, you know, you might not even realize you're doing these things. So that's why I want you to use this time in quarantine. We have a lot of time, most of us, and ask God, what are things that I'm doing that I need to fix that I might not even be realizing that I'm struggling with? You know, so just be mindful and be intentional of paying attention to your language, of how you speak to other people and how you speak to your children, because your words matter, okay? And the third thing are your actions lining up with your words? So I just talked about how important words are and how important they are to children and how important it is to pay attention to how you talk to other people or about other people. But now it's like your actions matter so much too. So if you're saying one thing and you're trying to instill these Christian values in your children, or you're trying to teach them that praying is important, but you're not praying at home, you're not talking positively about people, you're tearing people down and doing all these things, you know, you're contradicting yourself, you're being a hypocrite, and your child's going to pick up on that, you know, and they might not tell you, they're just going to notice it, you know. And so you need to make sure that your actions are lining up with your words. I mean, I can give you a lot of examples about that, like with gossiping is a really easy one, and that's hard to acknowledge because I know women, we struggle with this probably a lot. I know I do. You know, if you tell your daughter, oh, gossiping is bad, you shouldn't be gossiping with your friends, it hurts feelings, you know, it can get you in a lot of trouble. And then you come home and you start talking about work and you start gossiping in front of your daughter. Well, you're contradicting yourself, you know, you're teaching her that, yeah, okay, well, you're not supposed to, but maybe in this situation you can, it's okay. You know, your actions are contradicting what you're you're trying to teach. So be mindful of those types of things too. Oh, another one is forgiveness. Like, we're trying to teach our children to forgive. That's a really big, important one. And as a teacher, I teach 4 and 5-year-olds. And so something that's really important is trying to teach them how to self-regulate their emotions and to play together nicely. And so much of my day is just spent modeling the behavior that I want to see. It's teaching them how to respond in situations that they don't have the words for. You know, I'm giving them the words of how to handle situations where they're upset. You know, if somebody takes a toy from a child and they get angry, instead of hitting them, you know, we have to use our words, things like that. And I model the words for them. And so forgiveness is a big one for children. And I, you know, in my class, I was like, you know, you have to say you're sorry. How are they going to know? You know, you need to show them that you need to tell them that you're sorry. You can't just start playing again and act like it never happened, because you hurt that child's feelings. And I remember back in high school and in college, and even I would tell my husband, I was like, I don't like saying I'm sorry. You know, you should just know that I'm sorry if I start talking to you again. You know, like I never said I was sorry. And then when I was teaching that to these children, you know, my students, and I was talking about the importance of apologizing, I was thinking, well, if I'm going to tell these children they should be apologizing, then I probably need to be saying I'm sorry too. And then, so I started being really intentional about whenever I mess up, instead of just blowing it off and pretending like it never happened. I started really trying to be intentional, even though it was really hard, as silly as that may sound, to start saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. This is what I'll do next time. Do you forgive me? And I was like, because I can't sit here as a teacher and expect my students to act a certain way. I'm not going to do it myself. And that's how parenting should be too. And so I think, forgiveness, if you're trying to teach your child to be, to forgive others, but you can't forgive a family member for something they said, 10 years ago, or you can't forgive a friend for a falling out that you had. You need to be able to forgive. Maybe you don't go and be best friends with them right away, but you at least need to not hold a grudge and be able to model that for your children, so you're not contradicting yourself when you're trying to teach them. And then another big one too, I hear parents all the time, so this is really important, concept of teaching them, you need to be grateful for what you have. Thank God for the things that you have. And this is a tricky one too, and I can say for myself especially, this is one that I probably wouldn't even need God to reveal to me, because I already know this about myself. I compare myself all the time to other people. It's in my nature, it's in my performance nature. And so I don't really like social media, because I'll sit there and I'll compare myself to other people and things that they have. And so I know for my son, if I'm telling him when he gets older, you need to be thankful for the things that you have. You shouldn't want what your friend has, be happy for them that they have that. But you have everything that you need. We're going to take care of you. God has blessed us. Be thankful for what you have. If I'm going to try to instill that in him, then I can't be over here getting angry because my friend bought this brand new Lincoln and I'm like, oof, I need to go buy that car now. Or I can't sit there and get angry that somebody bought this new designer bag and I'm like, oh, I gotta go buy that bag now. I can't sit there and say, no, you need to be thankful for the things that you have, but then not be able to be grateful for the things I have. So once again, I'm contradicting myself. So all of that to say is just make sure that your actions are lining up with your words. And that could be more tricky than what is said. Like, it's easy to say your actions matter, but when you really start thinking in detail of, are my actions lining up with my words? When you start really thinking about it, you might not even realize that this is something you need to work on. And that's why this devotional is more of a internal reflection and a time where I need you to go and speak to God and ask him to reveal himself to you, is because you might not know where your struggles are. You might not know that there is something that you need to fix until God puts it on your heart. And so that's my challenge to you from this devotional, rather than giving you strategies and how to fix things and how to talk to your children in certain ways. Like, I could give that to you and I would love to, but that would take forever. So use this time that we have with our families, being in the current situation that we're in. Use this to your advantage of setting aside time to meet with God and evaluate your parenting. Evaluate the way you've been treating people. Evaluate the way that you're talking to your children, talking to others. Are your actions aligning with your words? Ask God to show you if that, if everything is right, and he will reveal it to you. And so once you know what you need to fix and what your weaknesses are, that's when you can start really trying to fix things. But if you just start trying to put strategies in place when you don't know where the problem is, you're not going to have much success. So my request, my challenge for the parents and everybody that's watching is ask God to reveal to you what areas you need to work on. And you might be surprised of what he reveals to you. And you can't model a Christian life. You can't give your children these expectations of praying and having a relationship with God if you're not doing it yourself. You have to model the behavior that you want to see, because if you're not doing it, why would they? So it all starts with you, and it starts with you being alone with God and getting right with him before you can do anything else and expecting your child to follow it. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope that you take time and ask God and to reveal things to you, spend time in His Word, and pray with Him. And I'll see you next week.